Hi everyone, it's Glody again. Of course, I don't feel like I need to constantly introduce myself at the start of every single podcast because by now you guys should know who I am and what I do. But I'll allow you to introduce yourself to the people.
My name's Rae Dee. I'm a DJ, been DJing for about 5 years now, based in London. I just DJ music that I like, whether it's hip hop, dancehall, bouillon, garage, dubstep, house. If I like it, I'm gonna play it. And yeah, that's me.
Really, really sick. I think we won't even waste time. We'll just kind of get straight into it because we were in the middle of quite an interesting conversation, I think. But I think we'll start with the beginning. How is it that you got into the DJing industry? That makes sense.
I think with DJing, it just came from like my love of music. Both my parents were in the music industry. That's what they did. Like,
what were they doing, to be precise?
My dad was a saxophonist in a band, and my mum was a singer in a band. So like a lot of the 80s, it's called like the Brit funk scene. So like Loose Ends, Heatwave, like a lot of those big groups. Those are like my parents' peers. My dad was a session player as well, so he played with a lot of groups. And my mum did like backing vocalists a lot on like TV appearances and things like that for other artists. So like growing up in my house is just like music was an obsession. Like I had to have music for everything. Like no journey was complete without people operating like, you know, the 6 CD changer and the old school cars. We had all the CD decks were for full. So yeah, just coming from that, I just knew that music was something I wanted to be a part of. Was never really sure exactly what. But then also growing up in a West Indian background, like a lot of all our family parties was again centered by music, that kind of sound system culture, selector culture. So I had he's a cousin uncle. He's a cousin, but he's an uncle because he's a big man. But he was a DJ, and I just spent time with him at the family parties, and he would like show me some stuff. I couldn't mix, but he was just like, "Yep." In my head, I couldn't mix, but he's like, "Yeah, man, you got something there for sure." And then just fast forward a few years later, I just needed a bit more confidence. So I did a day session at a like a DJ production school called Hub 16 in Dalston. It centers women as well. So I was like, where's a safe place where I can just go and learn low pressure? So I did a day course there with a DJ called AG. Sick DJ, sick producer. And yeah, ever since then, I've just been like, cool. That was the environment I needed to be in just to give me that little push to start DJing. And I took it from there.
I think what's quite interesting about your story in particular, and we kind of started like a conversation before the actual recording, was the fact that I think just from listening to you, I've realized that where you've gotten to now came out of an obsession. And I feel like, because you mentioned fortune, and what was the other component you mentioned?
Probably luck.
Yeah, fortune and
similar
luck.
Things, yeah.
And I've always found it difficult to kind of base things on luck. I do strongly believe that you create your own luck, and because sometimes I feel like what people tend to do is just be like, yeah, if I get lucky, this could happen, but it leaves something in the air. I feel like everything is 100% your responsibility. It's a response of you as an individual. The opportunities that you've had, or for you to be where you are at now, it came out of an obsession. You didn't know per se that this is where you were going to get to, but it just started with an obsession, and from that obsession has come all of these other opportunities that you've obviously taken.
I think where the fortune comes into it for me is more the people that I met, because say that I DJ for an artist called George, sick artist, doing really well. The fortune is that I met him because our last name was in alphabetical order in the register. So when you're in year 7 to 9 and they sit you in alphabetical order, that was the person I sat next to pretty much every day for how many years. And he's now, I didn't know Jordan would then become George, and then I didn't know that I would then become a DJ. Then I would end up being his DJ and also end up working alongside him for other musical ventures that we're working on. That's fortune. Like, you can't you can't do any outside work to that. It's just that you managed to just get these friendships that have nothing to do with music at the time. And there's people that I met that our relationship had nothing to do with music, and fast forward these years, we're now doing things to do with music. So I think I've just been fortunate to just meet the right community before I could be like, right, who do I need to talk to? Who do I need to connect to? That community's just come to me. And I think that's fortunate, because when I speak to up and coming DJs, they don't have that same, it's called what we call a network now, essentially. I don't see it as a network. I see it as just people that I just became friendly with when I was 18, 11, 24. And fortune has had it that we can now come together, and we've worked on our own stuff, and we've managed to come back and it's worked out. I can't really pass that on as tangible information for other people, because they won't have the same opportunities. Like, I met the person that pretty much took me through the DJ game. I met him when I was 18. He was DJ and I wasn't. The amount of things that have come from, his name's Rob Percy, that have come from him, I wouldn't have worked for that. It's just fortunate that we just managed to get a relationship that was music focused. And as soon as I was ready to DJ, things were pretty much lined up to me.
But isn't that, you just said music focused. So my thing is this, even, I don't know how the genesis of the conversation started.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm looking at the fact that you were already obsessed with music before you were 18.
And that's not fortune. That's just me being who I am.
Exactly. And in you being who you are, that obsession that you've had in music has almost somehow brought these people or these relationships close to you. But it started out of an obsession. And I feel like obsession is very personal. And like you said, you kind of alluded to it, it's not something that you can pass down. Like, you can't pass down the formula as to how you've gotten to where you are. It just started from your obsession. And
staying up till 4 a.m. to download music and listen to music, like, instead of doing my GCSE coursework. Like, that's just
it's an obsession.
Who I was. Do
you get what I'm saying? And I feel like, because we were having a discussion before on the previous podcast about why there is a seeming scarcity, for example, in the creative industry and stuff like that. But it's like, when you look a bit closely into it, I feel like sometimes the scarcity comes out of people actually not having an obsession, and not knowing what they want to do, for example. But then it's like, how do you then, because I feel like it's a personal thing, you know, it's you having to find yourself and being able to find your obsession. A lot of the time, when we do these podcasts or when we have these sort of conversations, I'm always just trying to think of, okay, cool. I'm always trying to link it back to grassroots and think, okay, cool. How do we help somebody who's listening to something like this now, or how do we help direct them? Would you say that because, for example, the environment for you was the fact that both of your parents had a musical background, and because of that, you were constantly exposed to that. And because of your exposure to that, it's an obsession that you probably can't even tell me the day that you knew that you were obsessed with music, or could you?
Nah, it's just something that I feel like from day one, it's just been there, from listening to it, from playing instruments, growing up. It's just
it's just been there. And with that whole bit, it started from having the correct environment, let's say, and now it's led you to having the obsession that you've got now. How would you help direct somebody, for example, who's interested, let's say, in DJing, but it's like they don't know how to navigate? How would you kind of help them navigate themselves?
I think what's good for DJing now that I don't think it wasn't as popular when I first started coming up is open decks. There's so many open decks now, and a lot of club nights in London are incorporating open decks into the club night. So you can send a mix or just hit up a promoter and say, like, hey, this is what I do. Can I have 20 minutes, half an hour at the beginning? So that to me, obviously, is not something that I've experienced, because now I don't really do open decks. Sometimes I do, but not to reach out to
people.
But like that, if there was more of that growing up, when growing up. But when I started DJing, then that would have been great as well for grassroots. And it just also gives you a chance to actually put yourself into the physical community, because I think online is great. Things are online. Nice to see like cool mixes and videos and edits and blends online, but nothing beats just chatting to people face to face and actually making those connections.
Yeah.
Just naturally, for me to want to care about something or someone, like I have to have some kind of connection, whether it's big or small.
Yeah.
And then from there, I can just be open, chill. To be fair, I'm always open and chill, but that's just naturally what I go for when talking to people. It's not by force. It's just like, oh, cool. Like, where's the middle point for us here? Like, but not in a. It's not as direct as that. It's just like you're just chatting to someone. It's like, oh, you know, I'm here. You're here too.
Kind of stumble on it.
Yeah, like if we're both here together, then there must be something that we can, you know,
work on together.
Yeah, or we'll just bond over together. And it doesn't have to be something that goes on forever. It could just be, there's some people that I've only physically met once or twice, but just those conversations and connections have helped me in some way.
Yeah.
It hasn't got to be like a tangible thing like a booking, but just in terms of like my outlook or certain things that I've never had to think about, or things that I've shared that I didn't realize were true to me. Just having those interactions with people in real life, or also just having fun. It's never got to be that deep or serious. Just having fun with people in real life, like that can just build your community and give you more of an idea of what it is that you want to do and what you're passionate about.
We briefly touched on, because I didn't realize how segmented the DJing industry is. I wanted to ask you, do you feel like, and I know you've already kind of said that, you know, that whole community thing or the DJing scene unifying as one is not something realistic, but do you feel like at grassroots though, that if the DJing scene was to be a bit more unified, or there to be a bit more of a community around it, that it would help grassroots more? And if not, why?
I think there's communities, but I think we have to stress the communities, like the multiple part. Okay. There is so many different kinds of communities. There'll just never be one DJ community. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Because as I said, people DJ for different purposes and different reasons, and certain DJs have certain functions that other DJs can't do. There's certain bookings that I do where I just stand there and DJ for 5 hours at a venue that a lot of DJs can't do. But in the same breath, I do a carnival sound system. I've done R&B and slow jams a few times, and I've done festivals with Jägermeister. Those are all very different kinds of bookings that require different skills and different abilities. Like for me to DJ for 5 hours, and maybe for only 2 of those hours there's people there, and to be able to play music non-stop and not repeat songs, a lot of DJs can't do that and don't want to do that. So there's DJs that solely do that versus DJs that just do an hour at different club nights. Like those are not the same communities and they don't have the same needs.
Yes. Okay.
So that's why it's very hard just to get
all DJs, put them into like one box.
But it's about finding your community.
Yes.
And that looks different to everyone. Like what your DJing community could be like. You got to go out there and find who and what it is and what kind of scene you want to be attached to. There's certain scenes where the only focus is literally the music and the selection. Like, is this DJ selecting a song that is going to blow my mind that I've never heard? And there's certain communities that rely on, you know, people playing the same 2-3 edits across a 5-hour club night, and you got to hear the same songs again, because it's just a scene where, you know, the DJs are trying to outdo each other with who can go the hardest. And rather than thinking of, you know, more individual things in terms of what they want to play, they're thinking of what do they think everyone else is going to react to, rather than what they just like. Those are also different communities.
What helped you find your community?
I wouldn't say I have one community. I'm not someone that likes to be stuck in the same space and environment. I'll get very bored very quickly. I'm a serial just bounce arounder. So all those different all those different things that I said I do, like the Jägermeister crew, that's part of my community, and that's Jägermeister's is house music for the most part, and a bit of hip hop and some fun other bits and some drum and bass. Like that's very different to the community that I've been finding with, say, I do a lot of Caribbean events. So like the people that are in like the more soca and bouillon and dancehall scene, that's different to that community.
Yeah.
I got friends that are in the queer community, so that's very different to everything else when I do hang out with them.
Yeah.
All these different things just keep me energized. If I was to get locked into one community,
then you'd be missing out.
I'll get bored, and I'll be missing out as well, because I think every community just has value, and I find it interesting just to meet different kinds of people. So yeah, that's how I find my community, just by seeing what else is out there and making connections with just what I like versus just something that is the same as what I'm used to.
I think sorry, listening to you is very I'm quite inspired. And I think because in you, of course, starting with that obsession, you found yourself, or you're on the journey of still finding yourself.
On the journey, always on the journey.
But you seem like you're in a good place at this moment in time. And I feel like sometimes when I look at things like, people that are suffering with things like depression per se, or you have people that, they don't feel like they're leading purpose-filled lives and stuff like that. And sometimes I look at the comparisons, for example, with not having an obsession or not knowing what it is that you want to do sometimes, and that being a factor that kind of, almost kind of like feeling helpless because you don't feel like you have something to live for.
Yeah.
Which I always feel like is quite important. And with some of the events that MTZ does, what we kind of try to do is provide a platform where people can actually try and find themselves, especially like in the creative space as well. Like you mentioned, there's many different, I didn't even know that there's different communities within the community of DJing.
For sure. It's not one community where everyone knows. No, there's too many DJs and too many different types. Just like, if you think of the range of music.
Yes. Yeah.
That the music community isn't one community. Yeah. So by default, the DJ community isn't one community. And with just how I grew up listening to music, like we're talking like what do we like? I grew up watching MTV Base and the Kerrang channel. Those are my two favorite TV channels. Yeah. So it's either MTV Base like 2000s, you're getting your Usher, even like Starboy Nathan those days, and those kind of things. And then Kerrang channel is System of a Down, Pantera, but then growing up in the UK, garage and house, like those are things I like, jungle. So when I think of what I like in music, why would I then just narrow it down?
Yourself.
Same with the community. I think that's just a reflection of how I enjoy music and life, like just variety and just doing different things. Because I always say there's certain experiences in life that are just one of one, and I want to have as many one of one experiences as possible. And I think putting yourself in different environments is how you get the most different kinds of things out of life. I
think that's quite important. Even the proactiveness. I don't even know if that's a word, but
proactive,
even being proactive, as to kind of just, trying things out and see what works and seeing what doesn't work. I think if there's something that's important, it's about being brave, 100%. I think being brave to try out new things, because I feel like even myself as an actor, obviously everyone on the podcast will probably know now, but you probably wouldn't know. I started acting when I was 15. And I stopped completely at 18. And I just gave up because of the fact that I felt like I was auditioning. I was doing many different auditions. I'd been signed. But it's like I kept on getting rejected. I felt like everything that I was doing wasn't working. And I just gave up on it. But it wasn't until I came into an environment of a positive environment, firstly, an environment that spoke of success, but also not just success, but the process. I feel like that's something that I lacked a lot back then when I was younger. And it's like once I was introduced into that environment, I've then gone back into acting, and it's like I have a completely new mindset and a completely different perspective as to why I'm doing it, for one, but also understanding that Rome wasn't built in a day. It's a process and it's a journey, and it's important to also be aware of that. I feel like some people, they tend to forget a lot about, or they kind of want things done straight away there and then. They want to be able to find themselves. But for someone like yourself, how long would you say it's taken you to find where you're at now?
I think I feel like for me, DJing pre-pandemic, I always say this, post-pandemic is two very different things to me, and I think like that's how I defined a lot of change. But how things were going pre-pandemic, they were going like really, really well. I was doing all different kinds of gigs, and then post-pandemic, just things like not even slow down. It felt like it stopped. Like I was just couldn't figure out how to get the range of bookings that I was used to getting, and I kind of had to build again in terms of getting bookings that fulfill me. That's the main thing, like, because you come back from a pandemic, you need to work, you need to keep yourself fresh, and I was just taking bookings that I was not enjoying. And then I stopped again after that. After coming back and stopping, when I say stopped, I was just doing a lot less work, and it's like, right, I'm only gonna commit to things if I feel like it's a booking that I'm really gonna enjoy, not just the environment but the kind of music I can play as well. So now I feel like I'm just able to work and be consistent and just be strong in what it is that I want and don't want, to the point where I don't have to DJ as much anymore, but it still balances out because I've stayed strong to the kind of work I wanted to do, and also finding bookings that push me, because I think it's very easy to become it's not competent, isn't the word, complacent. Yeah. It's complacency that I don't like. I don't like feeling complacent. I don't like feeling like I'm stuck in the same place
or being comfortable in a place.
I have to feel like I'm doing something that's pushing me, because I feel like I need that push. Otherwise I just don't have any interest in it, and I'm not gonna enjoy it. I'm always going to do a good job, but I'm just not going to enjoy it as much.
It's kind of like, even for myself, like as an actor, sometimes it's very easy. Like the biggest booking I done was for La Boheme, which was performing at the Royal Opera House.
That's amazing.
Performing for about a month or so. And once I got the job, done the audition, got the role and stuff like that, it's like there's that high of like, I'm flying and stuff like that. But then it's like, once that's done, it's kind of like you're back at like square one.
Yeah.
And I realize, like you said, it's so important I don't think motivation is the right word, but almost have like there's a word that I'm looking for, but I can't find.
Can you describe it?
It's like there's a knowing within yourself of what you're working towards and what the goal is. So for example, for myself, I know that me being an actor is not just to win the Oscars, and it's not just to be famous, and it's not just to be in Hollywood, which I know all will happen, but it's because I understand that me being in a position of influence like that, there's actually a lot more good that I can do with that position of influence. There's a perspective that I can show people. There's a mindset that I can actually give to people as well who see me. And I feel like sometimes, just an example, someone like Angelina Jolie, she's not been able to do any films in the last 5 years because she's been suffering from depression. But now, the issue with that for me is the fact that she is somebody who is an icon to many people, many young actors. But then it's like, if your goal is struggling with something like that, it kind of almost makes it seem like it's okay for that to happen.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that role of being in the limelight, or of being in a place where a lot of people can see you and a lot of people are banking on you, whatever you have to bring out the right thing. You have to, there's a word I'm looking for. You have to, oh God, you have to, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like whatever it is you're projecting, you have to be very, very particular about it, because it is going to impact many other people.
Yeah.
Because people are influenced by people at the end of the day. And especially somebody who's in such a role or such a position, people that see you, because you're able to get the Oscars, because you're able to get all the accolades and stuff like that, but then you can also get depression. If they ever get to a position in their lives where they start to feel depressed or get depressed, it's like, oh, okay, it happened to her, so it's fine for me.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous. So for me, it's like, if I'm getting into a position, so I had to go around just to make my point, but if I'm getting into a position of being seen by many people, what they must see is somebody who's spent time with themselves, for one, who's understood themselves, for one, for two, and who's also conquered who they are. Because whoever's being put on that pedestal, people are going to look at you and people are going to be influenced by what you do, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. People
will be. So if, like we're speaking, we both said it earlier on, that if we're getting into something, we want to be the best. So, you know, we can't even be surprised about, at some stage, being at a place where we are at the, you know, we are the leading faces of our industries. But if somebody's seeing me, what is it influencing them to do? At the end of the day, when someone sees me, I want them to, number one, have the mindset and the perspective that you're not only just a winner, but that you can actually conquer life. You can actually defeat life, because life defeats many people.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got what you're saying.
Life defeats many people, but it's like, how can I feel like I'm going off a tangent, but it's like, how can somebody who's in a position like, and this is, by the way, just to make it clear, I'm not getting onto Angelina Jolie at all. Not at all. Do you get what I'm saying? But what I'm just trying to highlight here is how much of responsibility we who are actually treading on this path of greatness, do you get what I'm saying, of trying to be the best at whatever it is we're doing, the importance of actually working on you.
That's important. I think for me, the balance is, and for me, this is coming from like stuff that I've experienced the last 2.5 years. There's certain things that will happen in life that's got nothing to do with you, but there's certain things that you don't plan. You can't plan to how you're going to receive what happens, if that makes sense. Good and bad. There are certain things that will just happen, and you can never be prepared for it.
I feel like one thing I think that has helped me in that respect, I guess for me, is mentorship. You know, having somebody who has gone through those things, because there's nothing in our lives that happens that hasn't just happened to us. It's happened to somebody else.
That's for me, like, that's something that's I've taken comfort from, in terms of like, yes, there's ways to, you can work your way out of things, and then you'll meet people that have had similar things happen and they haven't worked their way through those things. So you can't plan for anything that happens in life, but you just have to accept that there's gonna be some mad shit that happens in life, and it will never stop happening. So it's like, cool, are you gonna be that person that these things will happen, let life happen to you, or
rise above it?
Can you think of how to work through it so that you're not just carrying on to these things, and you get to a stage where your life is very successful, but a lot of people that have big success are some of the most extremely unhappy people and depressed and unpleasant people you could be around, because yes, might have risen above it, but they didn't actually rise above it. So rising above it is just beyond being successful. Like, rising above it is just doing your own mental work, just to understand what are your needs, because how my needs in terms of what I need to be able to be okay to work through situations are going to be very different to what your needs would be. And then when we do things that are draining, like acting is draining, DJing and certain bookings I do is draining, especially when there's people bothering you. It's like, cool, you're gonna have to always live with these draining things, but again, it's like, cool, you just have to accept that these are things that these can happen. But definitely it's about doing the work to work through, and I don't think that is that, and I don't think it's linear. I think there's a lot of this you might think you'll find one day and you realize you're really not another day. So it's just about having, I think there's a lot of self-awareness and really being honest with yourself. I think just being honest with yourself in terms of where you're at mentally, I think that's been very helpful for me to be able to work through, because I would say easily these last 3-4 months, if I'm being honest, I had a great summer on a professional level, but I had a horrible summer on a personal level. So if I'm going back from last summer, I did like a great run of festivals, like as a DJ, did something like Nice and Abroad, Carnival, all these nice things. So from summer to now, I would say that this has been my strongest run as a DJ. But the stuff that has been happening behind all of that, like,
it's been like the opposite of it.
It's been the opposite, and things that I could never be prepared have happened like in my life. So it's like that juxtaposition of those two things going on at the same time, like that's the wake up call I needed to be like, if I keep going the way I'm going on a professional level, but I don't sort myself out on the personal level, it's not going to last, and I'm not going to get to where I want to be and do the things that I want to be able to, because I just mentally won't be able to. So just having that awareness and being honest with yourself in terms of what work do you need to do, and the work looks different to everyone. And it hasn't got to be, go to therapy, get a mentor, talk to someone. It can be a mix of things that just work for you, and that's the only way for me that I'm going to be able to do what I need to do with peace of mind. Because when you don't have peace of mind, then you're trying to work towards your goals, it's just chaotic. And you'll just have that constant feeling of just being unsettled and unfocused, and feeling like things, always feeling like there's no focus and direction in things. Rather, I feel like these last, almost coming into a year now, that I've had like almost exactly a year since I've had all the good and bad stuff happening. If I didn't have that awareness to get through that, then these next few months would be a lot harder for me, because I know the next few months is going to be full on. So
before we do round up, I want you to kind of just speak on some exciting projects that you got coming. You can just plug yourself a little bit for those who are kind of watching us and everything.
So there's a party called Rum and Bass, run by legendary Sarah C. Big up Sarah. He's been doing this, I feel like, since I was born. He's like an OG from Brum, big for like dancehall, and I'll be working with him and a couple others to be throwing some Rum and Bass parties. So we got one early May bank holiday at Peckham Audio. That's going to be sick. So anything. It's all like dancehall, soca, reggae, a bit of Mapiano. I would say like those are the main energies, and just dance. I love energies. A Mapiano, by the way. Just dance, really, but mainly dancehall and soca, and things like Denery and Bouillon, any kind of Caribbean genre, we'll get it in there, as well as some more clubby bits. There's another party I'm working on with a couple other guys as well. It's called Zanta Party. Had the first one a couple weeks ago in Brixton. Stay tuned. Santa's it's a vibe. It's just energy. There's no real music policy. It's just everyone just coming together, holding the dance, holding the space, putting in some effort, looking nice. And the last thing I'm working on is a brand new event. It's myself and 3 others. Shadow Benny, Black Kippy, Dark Stepper, 3 great DJs, 3 great people. We're working on a night that plays all kinds of electronic music which there's nothing else that's doing that. Everything's either just a tech house party, a jungle party, but you could come and hear Kate Trinada in the same space. You could hear Julio Bashmore. Like,
Yeah.
there's not many parties that do that, and electronic music is all black music, so we thought we'll just come together and find our own community of people that want to hear all that stuff together. And yeah, I'll be on the roads with George at a few festivals this summer as well as some festivals for myself with Jägermeister, and whatever last minute bits come my way. More R&B and slow jams parties. I think we're involved in, like,
We love
some
our
fun
R&B,
events. Some fun events.
Okay. Well, thank you first of all for coming on. It's been a pleasure speaking to you and hearing from your own perspective. We'll be back again next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
No, that was good.